Welcome back. This is part 2 of the video on income, expenses and saving. Let's start straight away with this part E. Ratios of income and expenses are given and we have to find ratio of savings. We can make a few equations using x and y and we can solve them further, but the trick is to avoid writing x and y again and again, as ultimately we have to find ratio. So x and y are going to get cancelled in the end. Okay, as they are going to get cancelled in the end, why not skip writing them in the first place? Ratio of income is 8:5. Instead of taking B's income as 5x, I'll take it as 5 only. We cannot do this in all the questions. It will depend on an individual question and you will learn this with practice. Okay, when you can take it and when you cannot, you will learn this with practice. So here, instead of taking B's income as 5x, I am going to take it as 5 because I know that ultimately on taking the ratio of savings, the x and y that I'll be taking will get cancelled only. Now B saves 1/3 of this. That means B spends 2/3 of this. Okay. If B saves 1/3, that means B spends 2/3. Expense of B will be 2/3 of income. That is 2/3 into 5. That would be 10/3. Also, ratio of expenses of A and B is given to us as 5:3. This means that if expense of B is 3, expense of A will be 5. The ratio of expense is 5:3. That means if expense of B is 3, expense of A will be 5. We have got expense of B as 10/3. So if expense of B is 10/3, expense of A will be 5/3 into 10/3. That's unitary method that we have applied right here. Okay. When B is 3, A is 5. When B is 10/3, A will be 5/3 into 10/3. That is 50/9. So savings of A would be income of A minus expense of A. That is 8 minus 50/9. That will be 22/9. And savings of B would be income of B minus expense of B. That would be 5 minus 10/3. That is 5/3. The ratio will come out as 22/9 is to 5/3. Or we can multiply this ratio throughout by 9 and we can get 22:15 as the final answer. We'll solve this case with one more method. I'm calling it method 2. It is not entirely different. We'll be doing the same thing but in different way. B saves 1/3 of his income. This means if income of B is 3, then his savings will be 1/3 of 3. That would be 1. Okay, if income of B is 3, his saving will be 1. That means expense of B will be 3 minus 1, that is 2. Okay, expense of B will be 2. From here, we can say income to expense ratio of B should be 3:2. But in the question, we are given income and expenses ratio of A and B. Okay, and if we look only at the ratio term for B, if we look only at the second term for both the ratios, the ratio value representing B is 5 and 3. Okay, for income it is 5, for expense it is 3. We want this ratio to be 3:2. For this, first step is to make second term same in both the ratios. Okay, we will make second term same in both incomes as well as expenses. So LCM of 5 and 3 is 15 and we will make second term 15 in both the ratios by multiplying throughout the first ratio by 3 and second ratio by 5. We get 24:15 and 25:15. Now, the second term is same in both the ratios. we want the second term to be 3:2. We want the second terms in 3:2 ratio. So we'll multiply the first ratio throughout by 3 and second ratio throughout by 2. So the scaled up ratios will be 72:45 and 50:30. Now, these values satisfy every condition mentioned in the question. So for saving ratio, we can directly take the differences of income and expense terms. 72 minus 50 is 22 and 45 minus 30 is 15. 22:15 is the final answer. We know that ratio do not represent actual values, so we can take multiples of x and y for incomes and expenses and then calculate the savings. But in the end, while taking saving ratio, x and y terms will get cancelled, so we have avoided them in the first place and we have got the answer as 22:15. So this is one more way to solve such questions. Moving on to the next question. Ratio of income and expenses are same as before and they each save rupees 1500. Okay. We can take income as 8x and 5x and expenses as 5y and 3y. Income minus expense is savings and saving of both are 1500 rupees. So 8x minus 5y will be 1500 and 5x minus 3y will be 1500. Two equations and two variables, easily solvable. It's a cakewalk. So I'm going to skip this for now. I'll be moving on to method number 2 for this question. For this method number 2, it is important that they both save same amount. As in this case, they both are saving 1500. So this is important that the savings for both is equal. They both are saving 1500. Now, write the ratios of incomes and expenses. Now, saving is income minus expense and the difference on ratio scale, the difference of income term and expense term of A is 8 minus 5, that is 3, and difference for income term and expense term for B is 5 minus 3, that is 2. We have to change the terms, we have to manipulate these terms in such a way that income minus expense comes the same for both A and B. Okay, we have to change the terms in the ratio in such a way that income minus expense comes out to be same for both A and B. For that, we can multiply the income ratio throughout by 2 and it will become 16:10, and we can multiply the expense ratio throughout by 3, so it becomes 15:9. Now, the difference income minus expense for A as well as for B is 1. Here's an important trick. How did we know what number to multiply the ratio with? So that difference of first term and difference of second term is same. How did we get to the values 2 and 3? Well, difference between the terms of income ratio is 8 minus 5, that is 3. And difference for expense ratio, difference between the terms of expense ratio is 5 minus 3, that is 2. So the trick is to multiply the second ratio by the difference between the terms of the first ratio and multiply the first ratio by difference between the terms of the second ratio. Okay. Multiply the second ratio by 3 and multiply the first ratio by 2. Okay, so we multiplied the income ratio by 2 and expense ratio by 3. And on doing that, difference between the first terms and difference between the second terms are 1 each. And the actual value of saving, the actual amount of savings is given as rupees 1500. So 1 on ratio scale corresponds to an actual value of 1500. That means 16 and 10, the ratio values of A and B's income will correspond to actual values of 16 into 1500, that is rupees 24,000, and 10 into 1500, that is rupees 15,000. So that's one more method that we can apply when difference between the first terms and difference between the second terms of two ratios are given as same, when savings for both A and B are given as same. Okay. Last but not the least, just go through the question. Initially, incomes are in ratio 8:5. If rupees 800 is added to the income of B, the final ratio of income becomes 3:2. We have to find the income of A. Well, if 800 is added to only B's income and only B's income is changing, then why is the ratio value of A's income also changing? Think about it. Because these 8 and 5 are not absolute values. These are not absolute quantities of A and B's income. 8:5 means there is this relation between A and B that for every 5 parts of B's income, there are 8 parts of A's income. Now as B's income is changing and A's income remains the same, this relationship is also going to change because B's income is changing, right? So this relationship is also going to change. Now, for every 2 parts of B's income, there will be 3 parts of A's income. Okay, that's the reason overall ratio is changing. The ratio of income changes because there is change in income of B. There is no change in A's income. So let's make the terms representing A same in both the ratios. There is no change in A's income, so we'll make the terms representing A's income same in both the ratios. 8 and 3. Their LCM will be 24. So we can multiply the first ratio throughout by 3 and second ratio throughout by 8. Multiplying throughout will not be changing the meaning of the ratio. Okay, we can multiply a ratio throughout by a number and the meaning of the ratio will still be the same. So the new ratios are 24:15 and 24:16. Now the ratio term for A is same in both the ratios. And for B, there is a difference of 1. There is a difference of 1 on the ratio scale which corresponds to an actual value of rupees 800. So the multiplying factor here is of 800. Income of A would be 24 into 800, that is rupees 19,200. So that's all for this video. I have tried to cover 7 different cases in this one video and there are multiple methods as well. So my advice would be to solve all these 7 questions once again right away. Yes, right away. Take out your pen and your notepad and solve these 7 questions right away. You can ask your queries in the comments or mail them at support@gofodu.com. Thank you.